Not your normal Tuesday before an Ohio State game, Mike, as we had some big news come about yesterday as Deuce Knight from Mississippi picked the Fighting Irish. So Notre Dame's got their 25 quarterback. What did they get?
Wow, that's a great question. They got the guy that I remember on that pot of gold day back on St. Patrick's Day, talking to a Notre Dame source. Notre Dame offered, I think, was 3 or 4 quarterbacks that day, and I just remember source telling me, "Hey, Knight might feel like the biggest long shot of the group." No, I mean Notre Dame, I think, has signed they signed one kid from Mississippi in the 2020 class. Before that, Kelly had never signed a player from Mississippi. Like Notre Dame doesn't go to Mississippi a whole lot. And the feeling was that as this recruiting process goes on, Deuce Knight's going to be the guy for Notre Dame. And there had definitely been some turns where it didn't feel like that, but it did end up feeling that. So Notre Dame got really their guy from this that they wanted from the very start when they were really dedicated to going after 2025 quarterbacks. And then Darren on the tape, he's simply electric. I think he's 6'4". I've seen listings for him between 180 and 200 pounds, but let's just say he's 6'4 and a half, and he's a big dude, and he runs like a 4.5, and that's verified Elite 11 time 4.53 in the spring. He really has it all. He's a lefty, which is always an interesting note. Maybe some receivers need to get used to catching up a pass from a lefty, but not really big deal. But he moves really well. He has an incredibly strong arm. He looks pretty accurate. And talking to different scouts and stuff, like, does he have some mechanical stuff to clean up? Sure. Like, he's not as polished as a CJ Carr, but the upside here, Darren, is insane. I mean, he is really like a 5-star caliber quarterback. Like, Darren, you look at the 2-year recruiting for Notre Dame at this quarterback position between CJ Carr and Deuce Knight. You guys can tell me when the last time Notre Dame on paper has signed 2 quarterbacks. I mean, of course, Knight doesn't sign until next December and Carr won't until this December, but assuming that these 2 guys sign, when's the last time Notre Dame's had a pairing like this in back-to-back classes? It's really, really impressive. This is kind of what you hoped, when Marcus Freeman got hired, like just increased level of production talent, filling all the blanks there at the recruiting front. The Deuce Knight, this is one heck of a talent.
I don't know when the last time they've signed 2 guys like this or are about to get 2 guys like this, but I think it sort of validates my complaining and whining the last 10 years about not having more days like this. This is exciting.
It's Darren, how about this? I talked to a Notre Dame source on Monday, and the feeling in the building was that was the most exciting day from a recruiting perspective since Marcus Freeman took over as Notre Dame's head coach. Like that was one heck of a day. Not only because of all the things we talked about, the talent and all that, but it ended a pretty crazy little recruiting saga for 2025. And when he called to commit over the weekend, like there was some big time excitement for that Notre Dame staff.
Well, I think you established a couple of weeks ago that, I'm going to use your words, I believe your phrase, it was first come, first serve to Deuce Knight and Bear Bachmeier. And we were waiting for one of the 2 to pick Notre Dame. It ended up being Deuce Knight. We had a conversation last week. I think the way was kind of going toward Bachmeier being that guy. Is it fair to say this was a complicated and complex recruiting cycle for Notre Dame at the quarterback position?
Yes. Yeah, it was pretty nuanced. So last Monday, September, what would that have been? 11th, I believe, logged a prediction for Notre Dame to land Bear Bachmeier. And I want to talk about this because there's some things I want to unpack here. First of all, I was wrong. I predicted Bear Bachmeier to end up at Notre Dame, and that prediction will not, I mean, never say never, I guess. It's recruiting, but it was wrong. It's not going to happen. Notre Dame got Deuce Knight, and Bear Bachmeier will, I mean, again, who knows, but he's not coming to Notre Dame. And the thing is, I don't like. A lot of people will be like, "Oh, Mike, I mean, we all thought he was, like don't beat yourself up on wrong prediction." Like, when guys like me report things and we think this is gonna happen, we got to be held accountable and talk about it a little bit. So I thought Bear Bachmeier is going to Notre Dame. I guarantee you, folks, if you were in my shoes, you would have done the same thing. Let's just leave it at that. I mean, it was first come, first serve. It was first come, first serve to my knowledge, based on conversations with many sources. Bachmeier left campus, needed to think things over, and Deuce was ready. I really think there were, the visit for Bachmeier, all of the, reporting and excitement about, the potential of Bachmeier committing to Notre Dame. I think that kind of pushed up Knight to go ahead and lock that commitment in. And he had told me that this isn't something that came out of the blue for him. Like, he had been favoring Notre Dame for the past month or so. I think this just kind of put him in a position that he needed to make this decision, whether it's Notre Dame or not for him. And he picked Notre Dame. I've talked to different people, and Notre Dame says that you need to choose hard. Like, hey, this is not the easiest place to go to, right? You can stay close to home, go to an Ole Miss or Auburn. It's going to be easier for your family to see you. It's going to be easier academically. But if you choose hard, you choose Notre Dame, it's going to pay off for you in the long run. And that's what Deuce Knight did. He chose the harder path in that way. And I think that he's excited for this challenge. Really awesome young man. A pleasure to cover his recruitment, and I'm definitely looking forward to finally getting to meet him in person soon. In terms of Bear Bachmeier, another really good quarterback. Notre Dame wasn't able to get him, but it's more about Notre Dame landing Deuce than it is not landing Bachmeier, of course. But Notre Dame really couldn't have gone wrong here, in my opinion. Different quarterbacks with different levels of ceiling and floor. But again, both great choices. Going back to the prediction, Darren, I thought it was Bachmeier. I mean, if you made me do it again with the same intel, I probably still would go Bachmeier.
And that's what I was going to say. Just knowing a little background, the intel you got, I would have reported the same thing you did, without a doubt. So I don't think you did anything wrong. Just things changed. And when things change, it's out of our control.
But,
so.
I mean, I broke the news Friday morning that he's going to be visiting for the Ohio State game. And I mean, at that point, all bets were off. I mean, it was just really a rush to who was going to make that first phone call, basically. I mean, it was really pretty tight the whole way. But Notre Dame really couldn't have gone wrong again, Darren, and Deuce Knight, the guy that they offered back in March. They're definitely fired up about it.
I say this very cautiously, but having lived the Dante Moore experience before, I just hope it wasn't a rush to judgment because someone else might take a spot. I mean, I hope this is him.
Well, the thing about the Dante Moore experience is that it has not, like, that recruitment has, they're not this similar at all. No. Okay. The only way they're similar is that they both play the same position. I mean, Dante Moore never gave a public commitment to Notre Dame. I mean, just that's totally different. If you want to compare maybe like a Peyton Bowen, that's a recent wound.
Okay.
Or a Keon Keeley, these high profile guys who maybe Notre Dame squeezed to get committed. And then as time went on, yada, yada. But as in my conversation with Deuce Knight, an hour or so after he announced his commitment, I asked him the tough questions. I definitely recommend people going to blueandgold.com and checking out this article. I wrote it as a Q&A. you get to read my conversation with him. And I asked him the hard questions. I asked him, hey, when did you call? What was going through your mind? Did you know about Bear Bachmeier? Like, what how are you going to handle other schools contacting you? And he gave really good answers, Darren. And I'm thinking to myself as I'm talking to him, most of these things he probably hasn't even thought about yet, or thought about how to answer in an interview. And he gave really good, insightful, and I would definitely assume honest answers. As Notre Dame fans learn more about Deuce Knight and get to know him, you guys are going to be pretty excited. And I have no reason to think that he's not going to stick.
Okay. I'll eliminate the Dante Moore part. I'll just say, I just hope it wasn't a rush to judgment, but your article lays a lot of those answers out. So we'll leave it there.